The Stoics' Guide to Selective Generosity. 10 types of people you shouldn't help and why. We are often taught that helping others is a virtue, a noble pursuit that enriches both the giver and the receiver. Acts of kindness, compassion, and generosity are celebrated across cultures and religions, and for good reason. However, the Stoics, ancient philosophers renowned for their wisdom and practicality, offer a nuanced perspective on this seemingly straightforward principle. While they certainly valued benevolence and service to others, they also recognized the importance of discernment, the need to carefully consider where we direct our energy and resources. Not all acts of help are truly helpful, and not all individuals are receptive to our assistance. In fact, some people, despite their apparent need, may actively resist change or exploit our kindness for their own selfish purposes. This essay, drawing inspiration from the original transcript, explores 10 types of individuals whom the Stoics would caution us against helping, or at least helping in the conventional sense. We will delve into the reasons why offering assistance to these individuals can be counterproductive, draining our energy, and ultimately hindering their own growth. Furthermore, we will examine the Stoic principles that underpin this approach, emphasizing the importance of self-reliance, personal responsibility, and the careful cultivation of our own inner peace. By understanding these lessons, we can become more effective and discerning givers, focusing our energy on those who are truly open to receiving our help and creating a more positive impact on the world around us. We aim to enhance the key ideas highlighted in the original transcript with unique insights, creative metaphors, and useful strategies to create a compelling and educational resource on Stoic giving. 10 types of people you shouldn't help. 1. The immutable. When resistance to change makes help futile. The original transcript introduces the immutable, the individual who stubbornly resists change despite the opportunities and support offered to them. This is a common and frustrating experience, as we often feel compelled to help those who seem stuck in unproductive patterns. However, the Stoics would advise us to recognize the futility of forcing assistance on someone who is fundamentally unwilling to change. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic teachers, famously said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The immutable person embodies a rejection of this principle, clinging to their comfort zone and blaming external circumstances for their problems, rather than taking responsibility for their own growth. Imagine trying to teach a cat to swim. Cats are naturally averse to water, and no amount of coaxing or instruction will change their inherent nature. Similarly, the immutable person possesses a deep-seated resistance to change that makes our efforts to help them largely ineffective. Here are some strategies for dealing with the immutable person while still upholding Stoic principles. Set clear boundaries. Define the limits of your involvement and communicate them clearly. Let the person know how much time and energy you are willing to invest, but avoid overextending yourself. Offer your ear without offering solutions. Sometimes people simply need to be heard. Offer a listening ear and provide a safe space for them to express their frustrations, but resist the urge to offer unsolicited advice or solutions. Encourage self-reflection. Instead of giving direct advice, ask open-ended questions that prompt the person to reflect on their situation and consider their own options. Accept their choice without enabling it. Ultimately, the decision to change rests with the individual. Accept that they may not be ready or willing to embrace change, and avoid enabling their unproductive behavior. Protect your own energy, recognizing that you cannot force someone to change. Focus your energy on those who are receptive to your help and on pursuing your own personal growth. The key here is to offer support without becoming entangled in their resistance. Stoicism teaches us to accept what we cannot control, and the immutable person's unwillingness to change falls squarely into that category. By setting boundaries, encouraging self-reflection, and protecting our own energy, we can uphold our commitment to benevolence without sacrificing our well-being. 2. The manipulator. Recognizing and defending against emotional vampires. The original transcript aptly describes manipulators as emotional vampires who exploit our kindness for their own selfish purposes. These individuals are skilled at eliciting sympathy, guilt, and obligation, draining our energy and leaving us feeling used and resentful. Stoicism offers a powerful antidote to such manipulation by emphasizing the importance of reason, self-awareness, and the careful protection of our inner peace. Imagine trying to fill a leaky bucket. No matter how much water you pour in, it will never be full, and you will eventually exhaust yourself in the process. Similarly, manipulators possess an insatiable need for attention, validation, and assistance, and no amount of giving will ever satisfy them. Seneca, a prominent Stoic philosopher, cautioned against allowing our emotions to cloud our judgment. He argued that we should approach relationships with a clear and rational mind, recognizing the potential for manipulation and setting appropriate boundaries. Here are some strategies for identifying and dealing with manipulators, while staying true to Stoic principles. Recognize the red flags. Be alert to the common tactics of manipulators, such as guilt tripping, emotional blackmail, playing the victim, and shifting blame. Set firm boundaries. Clearly define your limits and communicate them assertively. Let the manipulator know what you are willing to do and what you are not. Say no. Without justification, you are not obligated to justify your decisions to a manipulator. A simple no is a complete sentence. Detach emotionally. Avoid getting emotionally invested in the manipulator's problems. Maintain a healthy distance and resist the urge to rescue them from their self-created crises. Focus on your own values. Remind yourself of your own values and priorities and avoid compromising them in order to appease the manipulator. Cultivate self-respect. Recognize your own worth and refuse to be treated as a doormat. Prioritize your own well-being and avoid sacrificing your happiness for the sake of someone else's selfishness. The key to dealing with manipulators is to recognize their tactics, set firm boundaries, and prioritize our own well-being. Stoicism teaches us to be compassionate without being naive, and to recognize that true kindness involves protecting ourselves from those who would exploit our generosity. 3. The victim. Empowering self-responsibility over enabling helplessness. The original transcript accurately portrays the victim as someone who consistently blames external circumstances for their misfortunes, refusing to take responsibility for their own lives. While compassion is a natural human response to suffering, the Stoics would caution against enabling the victim's self-pity and inaction. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The victim, however, relinquishes this power, choosing to see themselves as a helpless pawn in the game of life. Imagine trying to teach someone to ride a bicycle, but they insist on blaming the bicycle, the road, or the weather for their inability to balance. No amount of instruction or encouragement will help them until they take responsibility for their own learning. Here are some strategies for dealing with the victim while encouraging self-responsibility. Listen with empathy, but without sympathy. Acknowledge their pain and validate their feelings, but avoid indulging in their self-pity. Ask solution-focused questions. Instead of focusing on the problems, guide the conversation towards potential solutions and actions they can take to improve their situation. Encourage self-reflection. Ask questions that prompt them to examine their own role in their problems and to consider alternative perspectives. Set boundaries. Avoid getting drawn into their endless cycle of complaints and negativity. Limit the amount of time you spend listening to their problems. Offer resources, but don't solve their problems. Provide information about resources that can help them, such as therapy, support groups, or job training programs, but avoid taking on the responsibility of solving their problems for them. Focus on their strengths. Remind them of their past successes and their inherent capabilities. Encourage them to recognize their own power to create positive change in their lives. The key to dealing with a victim is to offer support without enabling their helplessness. Stoicism teaches us to empower individuals to take responsibility for their own lives, rather than perpetuating their cycle of blame and inaction. The goal is not to fix their problems, but to help them develop the inner resources they need to overcome adversity. 4. The narcissist, avoiding the black hole of self-absorption. The original transcript aptly describes the narcissist as someone who demands constant attention and validation, but shows little regard for others. Dealing with a narcissist can be incredibly draining, as they are primarily interested in their own needs and desires, and they often exploit others to achieve their goals. Marcus Aurelius astutely observed, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." This perfectly encapsulates the narcissist's paradoxical nature. They're deeply self-absorbed, yet they desperately crave external validation. Imagine trying to fill a bottomless pit. No matter how much you pour in, it will never be full. Similarly, the narcissist's need for attention and admiration is insatiable, and no amount of giving will ever satisfy them. Here are some strategies for dealing with a narcissist while protecting your own well-being. Recognize the pattern. Be aware of the narcissist's characteristic behaviors, such as grandiosity, entitlement, lack of empathy, and a constant need for attention. Set firm boundaries. Clearly define your limits and avoid getting drawn into their self-centered world. Avoid engaging in their drama. Resist the urge to argue, defend yourself, or try to change their mind. Focus on facts, not emotions when communicating with a narcissist. Stick to the facts and avoid getting caught up in emotional arguments. Protect your emotional energy. Avoid sharing your personal feelings or vulnerabilities with a narcissist, as they may use this information against you. Limit contact. If possible, limit your contact with a narcissist to protect your own mental and emotional health. The key to dealing with a narcissist is to recognize their manipulative tactics, set firm boundaries, and prioritize your own well-being. Stoicism teaches us to be mindful of our own emotions and to avoid getting entangled in the drama of others. The goal is not to change the narcissist, but to protect ourselves from their draining and manipulative behavior. 5. People who don't value your time. Respecting your most precious resource. The original transcript rightly emphasizes the importance of time as a valuable and irreplaceable resource. Yet, many people fail to appreciate the worth of our time, making demands on our schedule without regard for our priorities or boundaries. The Stoics, with their emphasis on living deliberately and purposefully, would urge us to protect our time from those who would squander it. Imagine your time as a limited supply of gold. Would you freely give it away to someone who doesn't appreciate its value or who uses it irresponsibly? Similarly, we should be selective about how we spend our time, investing in activities and relationships that are meaningful and fulfilling. Seneca wisely observed, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." This serves as a powerful reminder to be mindful of how we spend our days and to avoid squandering our precious time on trivial pursuits or with those who don't value it. Here are some strategies for protecting your time from those who don't value it. Set clear boundaries. Clearly define your availability and communicate your schedule to others. Say no. Without apology, learn to say no to requests that will drain your time or compromise your priorities. Prioritize your tasks. Identify your most important tasks and allocate your time accordingly. Delegate or automate. Whenever possible, delegate tasks to others or automate them using technology. Batch similar tasks. Group similar tasks together to minimize distractions and maximize efficiency. Schedule downtime. Allocate time for relaxation, recreation, and personal pursuits. The key to protecting your time is to recognize its value, set clear boundaries, and prioritize your own needs. Stoicism teaches us to live deliberately and purposefully, aligning our actions with our values and avoiding activities that are wasteful or unproductive. By taking control of our time, we can create a more meaningful and fulfilling life. 6. The deaf one. Recognizing when advice falls on unreceptive ears. The original transcript introduces the deaf one, someone who seems to listen attentively to our advice, but never actually implements it. This can be a frustrating and disheartening experience, as we feel like we are wasting our time and energy on someone who is unwilling to take action. The Stoics would advise us to recognize when our advice is falling on deaf ears and to redirect our efforts to those who are receptive to our guidance. Imagine trying to water a plant that is rooted in concrete. No matter how much water you pour on it, it will never thrive. Similarly, the deaf one may acknowledge our advice, but their underlying resistance to change prevents them from putting it into practice. Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one." The deaf one, however, prefers to talk about change rather than actually making it. Here are some strategies for dealing with the deaf one while preserving your own peace of mind. Limit your advice. Avoid offering unsolicited advice. Wait until the person specifically asks for your input. Focus on questions, not answers, instead of giving direct advice. Ask questions that encourage the person to think critically about their situation and to come up with their own solutions. Set realistic expectations. Recognize that the person may not be ready or willing to take your advice, and avoid getting emotionally invested in their progress. Redirect your energy. Focus your efforts on those who are receptive to your guidance and who are actively working to improve their lives. Led by example. The best way to influence others is to live a virtuous and fulfilling life yourself. Let your actions speak louder than your words. The key to dealing with the deaf one is to recognize their resistance to change and to avoid wasting your time and energy on someone who is not ready to receive your help. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, and we cannot force others to take our advice. The goal is to offer guidance without becoming attached to the outcome and to redirect our efforts to those who are more receptive. 7. The dramatic person. Preserving your peace amidst emotional chaos. The original transcript aptly describes the dramatic person as someone who seems to thrive on emotional chaos, turning every minor inconvenience into a full-blown catastrophe. These individuals often seek attention and validation by exaggerating their problems and drawing others into their drama. The Stoics, with their emphasis on emotional regulation and inner peace, would caution us against getting entangled in their theatrical displays. Imagine trying to navigate a turbulent storm. The dramatic person is like a storm chaser, actively seeking out emotional turmoil and drawing others into their vortex of negativity. Epictetus advised, "It is difficulties that show what men are." While some individuals face adversity with courage and resilience, the dramatic person often uses their problems as an excuse for attention-seeking behavior. Here are some strategies for dealing with the dramatic person while safeguarding your own emotional well-being. Recognize the pattern. Be aware of the dramatic person's tendency to exaggerate, seek attention, and create emotional turmoil. Set firm boundaries. Clearly define the limits of your involvement and avoid getting drawn into their drama. Detach emotionally. Avoid getting emotionally invested in their problems. Maintain a healthy distance and resist the urge to rescue them from their self-created crises. Offer empathy, but avoid sympathy. Acknowledge their feelings, but avoid reinforcing their victim mentality. Encourage self-reflection. Ask questions that prompt them to examine their own role in their problems and to consider alternative perspectives. Maintain your perspective. Remind yourself that their drama is not your responsibility and that you have the power to choose how you respond. The key to dealing with the dramatic person is to set clear boundaries, detach emotionally, and maintain your own perspective. Stoicism teaches us to protect our inner peace and to avoid getting entangled in the emotional chaos of others. The goal is to offer support without becoming a participant in their never-ending drama. 8. The ungrateful. When generosity is met with entitlement. The original transcript accurately portrays the ungrateful person as someone who takes kindness for granted, acting as though they are entitled to our help and never expressing genuine appreciation. Dealing with ungrateful individuals can be incredibly draining, as we feel like our efforts are not valued or reciprocated. The Stoics, with their emphasis on gratitude and the appreciation of what we have, would caution us against consistently giving to those who are incapable of acknowledging our generosity. Imagine trying to fill a sieve with water. No matter how much you pour in, it will never hold. Similarly, the ungrateful person has a void within them that cannot be filled by external acts of kindness. Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." The ungrateful person, however, seems to have lost sight of this precious gift, focusing instead on what they lack and what they believe they are entitled to. Here are some strategies for dealing with the ungrateful person while protecting your own emotional well-being. Recognize the pattern. Be aware of the ungrateful person's tendency to take kindness for granted and to expect more without expressing appreciation. Set clear boundaries. Clearly define your limits and avoid overextending yourself. Offer help selectively. Choose to help only when you feel genuinely motivated to do so, and avoid giving out of obligation or guilt. Focus on actions, not words. Pay attention to the person's actions rather than their words. Do they reciprocate your kindness in other ways? Or do they simply take advantage of your generosity? Cultivate gratitude within yourself. Focus on appreciating the good things in your own life, rather than dwelling on the lack of gratitude from others. Accept their nature. Recognize that some people may never learn to express gratitude, and avoid getting emotionally invested in their transformation. The key to dealing with the ungrateful person is to set clear boundaries, offer help selectively, and cultivate gratitude within yourself. Stoicism teaches us to be generous without being naive and to recognize that true kindness involves protecting ourselves from those who are incapable of appreciating our efforts. 9. The dependent. Encouraging self-reliance and avoiding enablement. The original transcript aptly describes the dependent person as someone who relies heavily on others to make decisions and solve problems, avoiding responsibility for their own lives. While it is natural to want to support those who are struggling, the Stoics would caution against enabling dependency, which ultimately hinders the person's growth and self-reliance. Imagine trying to teach someone to walk, but they insist on being carried. No matter how strong you are, you cannot carry them forever, and they will never learn to walk on their own. Similarly, the dependent person avoids taking responsibility for their own lives, relying on others to carry them through their challenges. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. The dependent person, however, relinquishes this power, choosing to rely on others rather than developing their own inner resources. Here are some strategies for dealing with the dependent person while encouraging self-reliance. Recognize the pattern. Be aware of the dependent person's tendency to seek constant reassurance. Avoid making decisions and rely on others to solve their problems. Set clear boundaries. Clearly define your limits and avoid taking on responsibility for their lives. Encourage independent thinking. Ask questions that prompt them to think critically about their situation and to come up with their own solutions. Offer support, but don't solve their problems. Provide encouragement and guidance, but avoid taking on the responsibility of solving their problems for them. Promote self-efficacy. Help them to recognize their own strengths and capabilities. Encourage them to take small steps towards greater independence. Practice emotional detachment. Avoid getting emotionally invested in their problems. Maintain a healthy distance and resist the urge to rescue them from their self-created crises. The key to dealing with the dependent person is to encourage self-reliance, set clear boundaries, and avoid enabling their dependency. Stoicism teaches us to empower individuals to take responsibility for their own lives, rather than perpetuating their cycle of helplessness. The goal is not to solve their problems, but to help them develop the inner resources they need to thrive independently. 10. The denier. Accepting reality and avoiding futile battles. The original transcript introduces the denier as someone who stubbornly clings to an alternate version of reality, refusing to acknowledge facts or evidence that contradict their beliefs. Trying to help a denier can be incredibly frustrating, as they're often impervious to logic and reason. The Stoics, with their emphasis on accepting reality and focusing on what we can control, would caution us against engaging in futile battles with those who refuse to see the truth. Imagine trying to convince someone that the sky is blue when they insist that it is green. No matter how much evidence you present, they will stubbornly cling to their false belief. Similarly, the denier is resistant to logic and reason, preferring to live in their own self-created reality. Epictetus wisely said, "It is not events that disturb men, but their judgments about them." The denier's problem is not with the external world, but with their own distorted perceptions. Here are some strategies for dealing with the denier while protecting your own mental well-being. Recognize the pattern. Be aware of the denier's tendency to reject facts, dismiss evidence, and cling to their own distorted beliefs. Avoid engaging in arguments. Engaging in arguments with a denier is often unproductive and frustrating. It is better to disengage and avoid getting drawn into their false reality. Focus on what you can control. Remind yourself that you cannot change the denier's beliefs. Focus your energy on controlling your own thoughts, actions, and reactions. Set boundaries. Clearly define your limits and avoid getting drawn into their delusional world. Protect your mental energy. Limit your contact with the denier to protect your own mental health. Accept their choice. Ultimately, the decision to accept reality rests with the individual. Accept that the denier may never change, and avoid getting emotionally invested in their transformation. The key to dealing with the denier is to recognize their resistance to reality, avoid engaging in futile arguments, and protect your own mental well-being. Stoicism teaches us to accept what we cannot control and to focus our energy on what we can. The goal is not to change the denier, but to preserve our own peace of mind and to avoid getting drawn into their distorted world. Expanding beyond the transcript. The Stoic virtue of justice and helping others. While the original transcript focuses on identifying individuals whom we should not help, it's important to emphasize that the Stoics were not advocating for indifference or selfishness. On the contrary, they placed a high value on the virtue of justice, which includes a sense of responsibility to contribute to the well-being of society and to help those who are truly in need. The Stoic concept of oikeiosis refers to our natural affinity for others and our sense of belonging to a larger community. This sense of connection motivates us to act in ways that benefit others and to contribute to the common good. However, the Stoics also recognize the importance of discernment, the need to carefully consider where we direct our energy and resources. As Seneca wrote, "The good man helps others, but he is not a fool." True justice involves not only helping those who are in need, but also ensuring that our actions are effective and sustainable, and that they do not enable dependency or harm our own well-being. Practical guidelines for Stoic giving. Here are some practical guidelines for approaching acts of giving from a Stoic perspective. Focus on the recipient's character. Prioritize helping those who demonstrate a genuine desire to improve their lives and who are willing to take responsibility for their own actions. Offer sustainable solutions. Aim to provide assistance that empowers individuals to become self-sufficient rather than creating dependency. Act with reason and deliberation. Avoid acting impulsively or emotionally. Carefully consider the potential consequences of your actions and ensure that you are not enabling unproductive behavior. Set clear expectations. Communicate your expectations clearly and avoid giving without expecting anything in return. Protect your own resources. Remember that you cannot help others if you are depleted. Prioritize your own well-being and avoid overextending yourself. Focus on your intentions. As long as your intentions are virtuous and your actions are well considered, you can find peace of mind, even if the outcome is not what you desired. The modern relevance of Stoic discernment. In today's world, where we are constantly bombarded with requests for help and where social media often encourages virtue signaling, the Stoic virtue of discernment is more relevant than ever. It is easy to fall into the trap of trying to help everyone without considering whether our efforts are truly effective or whether we are simply enabling unproductive behavior. By embracing the Stoic principles of reason, self-awareness, and acceptance, we can become more effective and discerning givers, focusing our energy on those who are truly open to receiving our help and creating a more positive impact on the world around us. We must understand that in order to help those in need, we have to create a sound mind and a healthy environment for ourselves. The Stoics offer a powerful and nuanced perspective on helping others, emphasizing the importance of discernment, self-reliance, and the careful protection of our own inner peace. By recognizing the 10 types of individuals whom we should approach with caution, and by embracing the Stoic principles of virtue and reason, we can become more effective and meaningful contributors to the well-being of society. Remember that true benevolence involves not only helping those who are in need, but also empowering them to take responsibility for their own lives and to cultivate the inner resources they need to thrive. Be discerning. Not everyone is receptive to help, and some may exploit your kindness. Recognize the immutable. Avoid trying to force change on those who resist it. Protect yourself from manipulators. Set firm boundaries and avoid getting drawn into their drama. Empower victims. Encourage self-responsibility rather than enabling helplessness. Avoid narcissistic black holes. Focus your energy on those who value your support. Value your time. Set clear boundaries with those who don't respect your schedule. Don't waste words on the deaf. Redirect your efforts to those who are receptive to your guidance. Preserve your peace amidst drama. Avoid getting entangled in the emotional chaos of others. Expect gratitude. Focus on helping those who appreciate your efforts and reciprocate your kindness. Encourage independence. Avoid enabling dependency and promote self-reliance. Accept reality. Don't waste time arguing with those who deny the truth. By applying these key takeaways in your daily life, you can become a more effective and meaningful contributor to the world around you, while protecting your own well-being and upholding the timeless principles of Stoic philosophy. You will find that you will have a sounder mind and a healthier lifestyle as a result. And always be ready to adjust your thinking and be open to a new idea. The world is consistently growing, and so must our knowledge.